Good morning, Recovery Mom. I wanted to jump on for a minute today and talk about something that almost everybody recovering, let me turn off this sound, that almost everybody that recovers goes through. And it's also a time in our recovery when it's very, very possible, okay, that we'll end up in quasi recovery, or that kind of like cycle that we never get out of and that we spend years in. So what I want to talk about today is that feeling that we get that, let me see if I can fix this a little bit. I have a very squeaky chair, and that is just the way it's going to be. Anyway, is the feeling that we get that once we start eating, we will never stop eating, okay? And we need to talk about it, number one, because most of us get this, and two, it's the biggest thing standing in our way between us and eating all the food, right? If we didn't have this fear that we were going to be never-ending pits, we would just eat all the food, okay? So let's talk about where this feeling comes from, because it's no coincidence that you have this feeling, I have this feeling, we've all had this feeling. It's something going on in our body. It's not just a coincidence. It's happening to everybody in eating disorder recovery. So we've talked before about some of the hormonal and neurotransmitter changes that happen when you have an eating disorder. Some of which are, let's see, there's some that make you afraid of like whole food groups, right? Like there's the, let me see, I'm gonna look at my little thing. There's the PYY hormone that gets increased, right, in your digestive tract. And that one makes you afraid of like high calorie, high dense foods. So now we have this fear of high calorie, high dense foods. And then we also have like, let's see, we also have the CCK and the PP hormones that are shifted that make us feel super full when we eat like high calorie, high fat, super satiating foods, okay? And then we also have that hormone, the Ghrelin, the neurotransmitter, and it is increased in non-anorexic people. In anorexic people, it is decreased. And that makes us afraid of fats, right? We kind of get this conditioned aversion, this fear of fats. So now we have a fear of high calorie foods. Now we have a fear of fatty foods. We feel overly full. We feel super bloated. We have all of these things that are setting us up to feel this way, that make us not want to eat, that make us run from food, that make us want to push food away, okay? All these changes in our body. But also we have Ghrelin, which is basically our hunger hormone. But guess what? Ghrelin stays normal. It's the same, it raises the same way it does in a normal starving body when you're starving. So our hunger hormone Ghrelin is just as high as anyone else that's starving. So we have our leptin that falls, our CCK, all these hormones and neurotransmitters that are making you not want fats, not want high calorie foods. You know, I mean, like you want them because your Ghrelin is high, okay? So you want the fat because your Ghrelin is high, but your other hormones are like, nope, we can't have them. We want the high calorie food. Your Ghrelin is like, ooh, give me those high calorie foods. But then your other hormones are turned the wrong way and they're like, nope, no high calorie foods. And this is happening with so many changes in your body. Your Ghrelin is high. And so, good morning, Eva. I'm making a video. You want to come in and join me? The video is only right here, so you're welcome to sit right over there. Eva and the dogs are here, everybody. So anyway, your Ghrelin is high, okay? And so you want to have all those foods, but yet if you try to have a little bit of those foods, you're getting super bloated and you're getting super full, right? And so you're feeling yucky in your body and your body's feeling bloated, and it's your body is sending you signals that you can't eat, you don't want to eat, food is bad. But your Ghrelin is still high, just like in someone who's normally starving. And so your Ghrelin is like, please feed me, please feeding. So what that leaves us with is this constant background of hunger that makes you feel like you're going to go crazy if you do start to eat, because you have all these other things in the way of your eating, all these other changes in your body that aren't letting you eat. Not to mention, we didn't even mention the amygdala, which sets off like crazy when you're around food, that makes you have this horrific fear. So you have all of that happening when you try to eat. But then there's this ghrelin that's still high, and it's still like, please feed me, I want to eat, I'm starving. Okay, and so what that means is that you are left with this feeling that if you do eat, if you do bypass all those feelings that are telling you not to eat, ghrelin makes you feel like you're going to go crazy, and you're going to eat for the rest of your life, constantly, nonstop. And so, two things about that. First, it is going to happen and it's not going to happen. You're going to go through a time when you do start bypassing those signals, because you have to do that. You do have to eat. You have to eat regularly. You have to eat all the time. You have to eat all day long, starting in the morning and continuing through the day every few hours. You do have to do that, and you have to eat enough to turn off all of those hormones and neurotransmitters that are the wrong way, okay? But once you start doing that, those hormones are going to start shifting in the right direction, but your ghrelin is still there telling you to eat all the time. So you are going to go through a phase where you do want to eat all the food, and where you are going to eat all the food, okay? I went through this phase. Many of us go through this phase. This is the time when this is the time of phases for me in my recovery, actually. I went through phases. Everything I ate became a phase. When I finally allowed myself oatmeal, I had an oatmeal phase. I ate a breakfast, lunch, and dinner for weeks. Then after that, I went through like a burger phase. I finally allowed myself to have a burger. I ate them breakfast, lunch, and dinner for weeks. And then the French fry phase. And they didn't happen at the same time, the burger and the French fry phase. They were two totally separate phases. I had to try every French fries in town, you know. And then there was the egg phase. And then, you leaving, Nova?
I have to go to the bathroom.
Okay. Will you shut the door? Eva has to go to the bathroom. Anyway, and Eva remembers these phases. Eva went through some of these phases with me, because when I went through the pancake phase, I took Eva along. We went to restaurant after restaurant, having every different kind of pancake you could imagine, okay? And that's because the hormonal things that were wrong in my body, that were set the wrong way due to my anorexia being triggered, were starting to normalize. But my ghrelin was normally high, as it should be in a normal starving body. My body is now a starving human being without the anorexia adaptations. Because of that, I wanted to eat all the pancakes. Oh, my dogs are now going to wrestle like mad. So because of that, I wanted to eat everything. And that is a perfectly normal thing to do. Okay, we'll just look. I know you wouldn't think she could be so crazy and chaotic over there playing with my other dog, but she's absolutely the instigator at all times. So anyway, yes, you're going to go through that phase. Be prepared for it. It's going to happen. I mean, maybe it doesn't happen in 1 or 2% of people, but it's perfectly normal that when your hormones re-regulate, okay, and your ghrelin is high and wanting you to eat, you know what that is? It's a sign that you're getting better. When you hit that phase where you want to eat everything and you get the extreme hunger and you're just eating and you feel like you're developing binge eating disorder, because guess what? You're going to feel like you're developing binge eating disorder. You're not. You have a restrictive eating disorder, and you're finally working through it, and you're turning your hormones the right direction. And when you do that, okay, you're going to want to eat all the food. And that's normal. You have to be ready for that phase and let it happen. Because if you're in that phase and you're eating all the food and then you freak out and the next day you're like, I'm not gonna eat breakfast, that tells your body you're still in a famine. Your brain and body's like, ooh, famine again. Hold on to all the fat, hold on to everything. We're back in a famine. So when you do hit this phase, remember, that means some of your hormones and neurotransmitters are correcting themselves. It's a great thing. That means you're reacting like a normal person does when they're starved. And think about it. Think about one of your kids or your parents or your loved ones or a coworker who you admire. Think of a person in your life that you love, and think about what would they do if they were starving? What would you want them to do if they were coming out of starvation? You would want them to eat all the food. And that's what you need to do right now. Eat all the food. That's point number one. Now, point number two it's not going to last forever. It's not going to last forever. I know your fear is that it's going to last forever and you're going to become huge. First of all, there's nothing wrong with huge or big or whatever. You have to come to terms that you are going to be in a bigger body. You are going to be in a bigger body, I promise you. You're not going to recover into the same body. You're going to be bigger, and that's okay. And you're going to feel okay with it once all of your hormones shift. I promise you're going to feel okay with it. But also, are you listening? She's deciding if she's going to go crazy. Okay, anyway, I totally got off track there because my little girl is so sweet. So, point number 2, it's not going to last forever. I promise it's not. You can't keep going back. When people hit this extreme hunger phase, this is usually when they jump into quasi-recovery because they freak out and then they restrict or they purge or they do something to undo. Then they extreme eat again and then they get fearful again. But if you want to recover in the healthiest, dare I say smallest, because I know that's your fear, body that you can recover into, then you can't jump into that binge restrict cycle or that quasi-recovery. You've got to push through the extreme hunger, because every time you toggle back and forth into that, you're raising your set point in the same way that somebody yo-yo dieting might raise their set point, okay? That's a real thing that happens to our bodies, and that's because when our body is like, you know, feast, famine, feast, famine, feast, famine, it's going to, over time, want to hold on to more in order to survive. Your body's just trying to protect you. So push through that extreme hunger. Push through it. When you feel like you're going to eat forever, remember that you're not. You're not going to eat forever. I promise you that. For me, let me think of how long. I think I was in that phase for months. And when I say months, I mean, it might have been 6. It was months. There was times when, of course, like everybody, I would freak out and not eat breakfast. And in fact, in the whole beginning of my extreme hunger, I think I jumped on that train. Like, I would eat whatever my phase was, and then like the next morning I'd be like, oh, can't eat breakfast, normal. And then anorexia would play with me and be like, but not everyone eats breakfast. It's okay to not eat breakfast, right? You don't have to eat breakfast. You ate so much last night. You ate in the middle of the night. You're good. But here's the thing. When you have an eating disorder, you have to eat breakfast in recovery. Not once you're recovered. Not everyone eats breakfast. But you, in recovery, have to eat breakfast. That's part of showing your brain that you're not in a famine, okay? So you have to do that through the whole time you have extreme hunger. And I know it sucks and it's scary and it's horrifying, but it's also the way out. And remember, if you're in this phase of extreme hunger and you're feeling terrified, please remember that you're almost there. That means you're closer. If you're in this phase of extreme hunger and you're giving into it, that means you're almost there. That means your hormones are starting to shift in the right way and your body is starting to react like a normal starving body reacts, okay? So I would do a little recap, but I don't even think I know everything we talked about. we talked about the fact that you feel like once you start eating, you're going to eat forever. And that's because all of your hormones are shifted in a way to make you keep food at bay. But your ghrelin is still high, saying, please eat, please eat, please eat. So like these two things are working against each other. So they make you feel like if you break through, you're going to eat forever. Next, we talked about the fact that you are going to eat a lot. And that's normal. And it's a good sign. It's a great sign. It means you're almost there. I was terrified when I hit that phase. But it does mean that you're closer and you're almost there, okay? And we also talked about the fact that once you give in and do eat to that extreme hunger and mental hunger, it's not going to last forever. It's not, I promise. I'm proof. I thought it was going to last forever. I really did. I wanted to turn back so many times. And the only thing that really helped me, I mean, like besides like the heating pads and that kind of stuff, was humor. I mean, I have so many pictures and videos of me like just pulling my shirt up and my pants down and letting my big bloated belly just stick out and just laughing because it was just comical at that point. I would be in pain and my belly would be out and it would hurt so bad and my brain would be like, I think we have ice cream. I think we have cookies. So like, I know all too well how horrifying and scary it is. And you're just like, body, how could you want more food? You're hurting, you're in pain, you're bloated. But you have to eat through that because you have a starving body. And to get to the other side, you've got to eat all the food. So I hope this made sense. If you have any questions, put them below. I know I can tend to talk for a long time. And that's why TikTok gets so like hard for me sometimes. But anyway, Lou needs to have her car. And because we got in a little bit of a fender bender the other day, I don't have a car. So I have to take her mine. So thank you for listening. And I will see you next time.